Whiteface sits in the town of Wilmington, tucked into the northern Adirondacks, about 13 miles north of Lake Placid. If you're coming up from New York City, you're looking at roughly 4 to 4.5 hours by car, a journey that takes you north through the Hudson Valley up into the broad farm country of the capital region, and then into the mountains proper, where the road narrows and the trees close in, and the Adirondack Park, all 6 million acres of it, begins to make itself felt. Albany is about an hour and a half south of Wilmington. Montreal is roughly 2 hours north. Whiteface sits right in that remarkable middle, close enough to feel accessible, wild enough to feel like somewhere entirely apart from ordinary life. The mountain itself tops out at 4,867 feet, the fifth highest peak in New York State. And while that number might not sound like much compared to the Rockies or the Alps, what makes Whiteface exceptional is not just how high it is, but where it sits. Because it stands apart from the other high peaks, isolated on its own massif, the views from the summit are extraordinary in all directions. On a clear day, you can see the sweep of the Adirondack wilderness stretching south and west, Lake Champlain glittering to the east, the Green Mountains of Vermont rolling beyond it, and on the clearest days, the kind of days that make you feel like the world has been polished clean, you can pick out the skyline of Montreal to the north. It's a panorama that few summits in the eastern United States can match. The name Whiteface has roots that go back long before European settlement. The Algonquin people who traveled these mountains and valleys for centuries before anyone else arrived, called the mountain Wahopar-Teni, which translates simply to, "it is white." A group of nomadic Canadian Indigenous people gave it a name meaning Whitehead. Both names captured the same truth. This summit wears snow and ice for much of the year, and its bare rocky crown stands out against the surrounding evergreen forests with a brightness that's visible from a distance. The mountain earned its pallor not from some single dramatic event, but from the combination of its exposure to prevailing westerly winds and the perpetual rock slides over centuries that stripped away the dark forest cover and left the light-colored anorthosite bedrock, a billion-year-old igneous rock formed under immense pressure miles beneath the surface of an ancient earth, bare to the sky. The first recorded ascent by a European was made by a surveyor named John Richards in 1814, who climbed it in the course of mapping the region. By 1859, there was already a trail to the summit from the town of Wilmington below. The mountain had begun attracting the attention of tourists even then, earlier than almost any other Adirondack peak, drawn by the combination of its visibility from the surrounding landscape and its proximity to the village of Lake Placid, which was beginning to develop as a destination for well-to-do travelers from the cities to the south. But the development that truly put Whiteface on the map, that made it not just a hiker's destination but a place that people from all over the world would come to experience, came in the 1920s and 1930s when a New York State governor with a famous name and a vision for public recreation set something remarkable in motion. In 1929, Franklin D. Roosevelt, then governor of New York 4 years before he would become president, initiated construction of what would become one of the most unusual roads in the northeastern United States. The Whiteface Mountain Veterans Memorial Highway is a 5-mile paved toll road that winds up the eastern slope of the mountain, gaining more than 2,300 feet in elevation at an average grade of 8%, threading through forest and rock formations and 9 designated scenic overlooks before arriving at a parking area just 300 feet below the summit. The road cost $1.25 million, an enormous sum for 1929, equivalent to roughly $22 million today, and its construction required blasting through solid anorthosite bedrock, building retaining walls on steep cliff faces, and hauling materials to elevations where the wind rarely rests. The highway was dedicated to the veterans of World War I, officially opened on July 20, 1935, with President Roosevelt himself presiding over the ceremony. The stone gatehouse at the entrance, an alpine-style structure built in 1934, still stands at the toll booth today. Just past it, Lake Stevens, a small, pristine mountain pond named for 1932 Olympian bobsledder Hubert Stevens, who trained nearby, offers a first taste of the landscape above. And along the road's edge, wildflowers grow in season as a living catalog of Adirondack mountain flora, blooming in the thin soil where the road was carved. At the top of the highway sits Whiteface Castle. It's a genuine stone structure, not a replica, not a theme park gesture, but a real 2-story castle built entirely from granite that was excavated during the road's construction. The builders decided that the rock they pulled from the mountain should go back into the mountain in a different form, and so they constructed this building at the edge of the summit parking lot, complete with a gift shop, a restaurant called the 4610 Cafe, named for the elevation at which it sits, 4,610 feet, and one of the most unusual elevator rides you will ever take. A 426-foot tunnel bores horizontally into the core of Whiteface from the castle, and at its end, an elevator rises 27 stories straight up through the heart of the rock to the summit observation platform above. If you've ever wondered what it feels like to be inside a mountain, this is your chance. The summit itself is the payoff. You step out of the elevator or walk up the short Stairway Ridge Trail from the parking area, a steep 0.2-mile path with handrails and stone steps, and suddenly the entire world opens up. To the south and west, the Adirondack high peaks unfold in ridge after ridge, a wilderness of rounded summits and deep valleys that stretches as far as the eye can reach. The summit platform is open, windswept, and genuinely dramatic. On a gusty day, the wind comes from the west and reminds you that this is one of the most exposed peaks in the Northeast. Meteorologists have known this since 1937, when New York University and RPI established a weather station at the summit. Since 1957, the University at Albany's Atmospheric Sciences Research Center has operated the observatory, and the data collected here, including groundbreaking studies on acid rain and cloud chemistry in the 1970s and 1980s, has made Whiteface one of the most valuable atmospheric research sites in the eastern United States. On February 4, 2023, the summit recorded a temperature of negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit, with wind gusts clocking in at 121 miles per hour. This is not a place that apologizes for itself. The Veterans Memorial Highway is a seasonal attraction, generally open to vehicles from May through October, so if you're visiting in winter, you'll be getting up the mountain a different way. And the winter experience at Whiteface is, for many people, the main event. The ski area at Whiteface is the largest in the Northeast by vertical drop, 3,166 feet from top to base, a number that's not a rounding error. The greatest vertical drop east of the Rockies, full stop. The mountain opened its modern ski operation in 1960, after an earlier ski area called Marble Mountain on the windier western slopes was abandoned due to poor snow conditions in the late 1950s. The new ski area was built on the more sheltered eastern slopes, and it has been growing and improving ever since. Today, Whiteface offers 86 trails spread across more than 300 acres, with 98% snowmaking coverage and some of the most reliable conditions in the East. Average natural snowfall runs around 190 inches per year, and in the record-setting winter of 2016 to 2017, the mountain received 281 inches. The terrain at Whiteface runs the full spectrum. Beginners get their start on Easy Acres, a dedicated learning area served by its own ski school, one of the best in the region, where first-timers can find their legs without getting in the way of faster traffic. Intermediate skiers and snowboarders love Little Whiteface, a separate peak with its own gondola access and a range of cruising trails. And for experts, the summit terrain at Whiteface is as serious as it gets on the East Coast. The downhill course that hosted the 1980 Winter Olympics still exists. You can ski the same lines that the world's best racers flew down during those games, which gives the experience a quality that's hard to describe without actually doing it. The 1980 Winter Olympics put Whiteface on the international stage and gave Lake Placid, and the whole surrounding region, an identity it has worn proudly ever since. The alpine events, downhill, giant slalom, and slalom, were held here on a mountain that had been extensively expanded and prepared in the years leading up to the Games. Austrian skier Leon Hardstock took the downhill gold, while Sweden's Ingemar Stenmark dominated the slalom and giant slalom events. The following year, the Olympic Regional Development Authority, ORDIA, was established to manage the Olympic venues in perpetuity, and it operates Whiteface Mountain to this day. All four of the Lake Placid Olympic venues, Whiteface Mountain, Mount Van Hovenberg, the Olympic Jumping Complex, and the Olympic Center, are still active and still used for international competition. Together, they're marketed as the Legacy Sites, and you can purchase a passport that covers visits to all four. The Olympic Center in Lake Placid Village, about 10 miles south of Whiteface, houses the Herb Brooks Arena, where the U.S. hockey team's Miracle on Ice victory over the Soviet Union took place in 1980. There's an Olympic museum there too, with video highlights, athletes' memorabilia, and enough history to fill an afternoon. And Mount Van Hovenberg, a short drive from Lake Placid, is home to the bobsled and luge tracks, where you can book a ride behind a professional driver and feel what it's like to pull serious G-forces through the curves of an Olympic sliding course. But back to Whiteface, because there's more to it than skiing and the highway. In summer, when the snow is gone and the road is open, Whiteface becomes a very different kind of destination. Quieter, greener, and in some ways more beautiful. The Cloud Splitter gondola lifts 8 passengers at a time from the base lodge up to the summit of Little Whiteface at 3,676 feet, where an observation deck and picnic area look out over the high peaks and down toward Lake Placid. Bring a lunch and stay a while. The views from up there on a clear summer morning are as good as anything you'll find in the east. The gondola runs through the warmer months, weather permitting. Hiking on and around Whiteface is excellent. The Wilmington Trail begins at the Veterans Memorial Highway and covers 5.2 miles to the summit, gaining more than 3,600 feet of elevation. A serious full-day effort that rewards with the same summit views you'd otherwise get from the elevator, except you've earned them differently. The Connery Pond Trail, starting near Lake Placid on Route 86, is another route up, with an elevation gain of just over 3,200 feet. And if you want something shorter and a bit more approachable, the Stag Brook Falls Trail leads along the west branch of the Ausable River and down through forest to a lovely waterfall. It's a guided hike that runs from the base lodge during summer months, typically setting out each morning and offering a real Adirondack experience without the need for a map or technical climbing skills. Mountain biking at Whiteface has become a serious draw in the warmer months. The Lift Access Trail Network uses the lower mountain terrain, and what was once purely a winter destination now sees a very different crowd in July and August. Helmets and knee pads instead of ski boots, but the same spirit of people who like going fast down a hill. The Flume Trail system nearby adds additional trail mileage through the forest, and the Wilmington Bike Park caters to all skill levels. There's also disc golf on the lower slopes, 9 holes winding through what are, in winter, favorite ski runs. It sounds more casual than it is when you're throwing a disc down a trail that drops steeply through the trees with a mountain view opening at the bottom. It's hard not to smile. Just down the road from Whiteface, close enough to make it a natural pairing, is High Falls Gorge, a 22-acre nature park where the Ausable River spills over ancient granite cliffs through 4 waterfalls. Sturdy bridges and groomed walkways provide safe access to views that feel genuinely wild, and the whole walk takes maybe half an hour. If you're coming with younger kids or with anyone who prefers a more accessible outdoor experience, High Falls Gorge is perfect. There's a cafe on site as well, operated seasonally, and further downstream, the Ausable Chasm, about an hour east near Keysville, is one of the oldest tourist attractions in the country, open since 1870, where you can walk through a dramatic sandstone gorge carved over thousands of years by the river, or take a raft ride through the canyon's formations. A few miles north of the mountain, also worth knowing about, Santa's Workshop in the hamlet of North Pole. Yes, that North Pole. It's a genuine holiday-themed amusement park that's been operating since 1949, designed by local artist Arto Monaco, and it remains one of the more charming and unexpected things in the entire Adirondack region. It's seasonal and aimed squarely at younger children, but adults who grew up visiting it will find it exactly as they remember. Now let's talk about food, because you've earned a meal after a day on the mountain. The Hungry Trout, just down the road from the mountain in Wilmington, is one of the region's most beloved restaurants, a full resort actually, with riverfront rooms and 2 dining options. The Hungry Trout restaurant, known for elegant Adirondack-style cuisine with trout featuring prominently on the menu, and the more casual HT Tavern next door. The setting, right on the west branch of the Ausable River with views of the mountain, is hard to beat. For something a bit more mountain lodge casual, the Twisted Raven at Whiteface has become a popular spot for après-ski, while the Country Bear Bakery and Diner in Wilmington is the kind of place that starts the morning right with real breakfast and baked goods. The Adirondack Mountain Coffee Cafe is a reliable stop for coffee and a bite before heading up the hill. And if you're spending time in Lake Placid Village, which you should because it's genuinely charming, the restaurant options expand considerably. The view at the Mirror Lake Inn is the region's AAA 4-diamond fine dining destination, with contemporary American cuisine and an outlook over Mirror Lake and the high peaks. Summit and Spice at New Vita Preserve is a newer operation in a beautifully reimagined lodge setting, open for dinner Wednesday through Sunday and serving globally influenced cuisine with locally sourced ingredients. Big Slide Brewery on Main Street is a local institution with good pub food and an excellent selection of beers, including the famous Ubu Ale, brewed by Lake Placid Craft Brewing. For lodging, the options break down broadly by how close you want to be to the mountain itself versus the amenities of Lake Placid Village. In Wilmington, the Hungry Trout Resort offers that riverfront setting with direct mountain access. It's a wonderful spot for anyone whose priority is the skiing or the summer trails. Ledge Rock at Whiteface and Cadence Lodge are both close to the mountain and well-reviewed for their views and comfort. In Lake Placid, the options run from the luxurious Whiteface Lodge, a full-service resort with the feel of a grand Adirondack camp, to the cozy and well-located Lake Placid Inn, to chains like the Hampton Inn and Cambria Hotel for travelers who want reliability at a reasonable price. Mirror Lake Inn is the classic choice for a special occasion. Lakeside rooms, fine dining, and the kind of Adirondack atmosphere that makes the whole trip feel like a proper occasion. Before you go, a few things worth knowing. The Veterans Memorial Highway is seasonal. Plan for May through October if you want to drive up. Summer mornings on the highway and at the summit tend to be clear before the afternoon clouds build, so earlier is often better. The summit is genuinely cold and windy even on warm days. Bring a layer even in July. And if you're skiing Whiteface for the first time, be aware that the mountain's scale is larger than most eastern ski areas. And the upper mountain terrain is serious. The ski school is excellent if you want to learn the mountain's layout before going off on your own. Whiteface is one of those places that reveals itself differently depending on the season you choose and the mood you bring to it. In winter, it's a world-class ski destination with genuine Olympic history under its boots. In summer, it's a mountaintop you can reach by car, by gondola, or by trail, with one of the finest summit views in the entire eastern United States waiting at the top. And at any time of year, it sits at the center of a region, the Adirondack North Country, the high peaks, the Lake Placid Olympic Corridor. That is, by any honest measure, one of the most beautiful places in America. That brings us to the end of today's episode. Before you go, a few quick things. Subscribe so you never miss a destination, leave us a positive review to help others find the show, and share this episode with someone who loves exploring New York. And if you're hungry for more adventures beyond New York, visit northstartravelers.com to explore our other podcast shows and browse gear recommendations for wherever your next journey takes you. Your support means the world and keeps these adventures coming. Thanks for joining us, and happy trails.